looks like it's 7 bells, so I will do so. Next item on the agenda, affirmation of proof for publication of the agenda.
I, Kimberly Johnson, hereby certify that notice of the Kickapoo Area School District Annual Meeting, Budget Hearing, meeting was caused to be published in the Epitaph News on 10/4, 10/11, and 10/18, and posted on billboards in the following places on 10/17/23. The Kickapoo K-12 School Building, Citizens First Bank of Viola, Viola Post Office, and the school website.
Thanks, Kim. Next, we need to appoint a secretary for the annual meeting. And is Marla?
I'll make a motion that we appoint Marla to be our secretary.
I'll second that.
Motion by Earl, second by Janet. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, Marla. And then the next item, we'll open nominations so we can elect a temporary chairman for tonight's annual meeting.
Go ahead. He said he nominated Scott.
What was that, Jen?
I'd say I nominate you.
Can it be a?
Yes.
Oh, this is a public meeting, Scott.
Oh,
This
okay.
is an actual public meeting. They vote in all of these people, like, well, as long as they live in the district.
I'm gonna miss Danny being here.
I know.
I'll second it.
So I guess they have to accept or decline. I'll accept, I guess.
Well, I'll move nominations be closed then.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Next up is reading of last year's minutes from the 2022 annual meeting. We can either go through that, or if anybody
I
wants.
move that we dispense with the reading of the 2022 annual meeting minutes.
Thank you very much. Motion by John Mathis, second Tom Simonson, to dispense with item 5. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next up, reading of the treasurer's report by Earl Wallace, School Board Treasurer.
I can't do that, I know. 2022-23 general fund revenue was $8,051,752.63. Proposed for 2023-24 budgeted revenue of $7,557,429, which is a decrease of $494,323.63, or 6.14%. The 2022-23 general fund expenditures was $7,969,576.78. Proposed 2023-24 budget expenditures $7,557,429, decrease of $412,147.78, or 5.17% decrease. The district has the following debt payment schedule for the 23-24. Payment on the 2015 Energy Efficiency Bond Fund 38 is $438,812. The payment on the 2021 Pool Referendum Fund 39 is $189,065, for a total of $627,877. The district will be filing for short-term borrowing authority for the 2023-24 fiscal year. The district did not do any short-term borrowing in the 2022-23 fiscal year, and there is currently no outstanding balance. The tax levy is based on the revenue cap, which changes according to the September enrollment, equalization aid, and the equalized valuation, among other variables. The 2022-23 total tax levy was $1,896,201, The proposed tax levy for 2023-24 proposed is $1,996 and $1,996,371, an increase of $100,170 or 5.28%. The general aid is certified by the Department of Public Instruction on October 15th each year. The equalized valuation is certified each October by the Department of Revenue. The 2022-23 general aid was $3,489,421, and the 2023-24 general aid is $3,403,698 of equalized value, a decrease of $85,723 or negative 2.46%. The equalized value is for the 2022-23 is $281,784,689, and the 2023-24 equalized value is $345,870,455, or an increase of $64,085,766, or 22.74%.
Thank you, Earl. Next, we have presentation of the 2023-24 budget.
I think Kim had something she'd like to.
Yep, I'm going to start with the membership count. So that next page there, we see in green, or let's start with the membership count, which is actually in blue. This number is taken on the third Friday of September. It counts all of the students who are age 4 through 21 who are residents of this school district, regardless of where they attend school. Students enrolled in this district school, this number mainly drives our general state aid, which is distributed on a per pupil basis based on this enrollment count. So our membership for our students living in our district is 417. The FTE, the red line there, which is a 405, the FTE is the full-time equivalent. Our 4K students count as a 0.6, so it is prorated as well as those for those members. And then finally, our in-seats. This number, our 469, counts the students who are physically attending Kickapoo within the district on that count day. It does not include our resident students who are attending school elsewhere through open enrollment or vouchers. This number affects our revenue limit, which determines how much we can spend from state and local sources. So more in-seats on count day means a higher revenue limit and spending authority. So our numbers here are the 469 for in-seats. On the next page, we have our open enrollment in versus our open enrollment out. The blue line is our open enrollment in, and we had 103 students. And our red line is our open enrolled out, where we had 52 students. Open enrolling out to other districts.
Excuse me, Scott, we did need a motion and second on the treasurer to approve the treasurer report.
Oh, I am so sorry.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion by Janet, second by Peggy to approve the treasurer's report. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you, Marla.
All right, so I'll just close by saying that we are obviously gaining additional students and funding due to these open enrolled students who have chosen to attend our school. So that's a good situation where we are bringing more students in through open enrollment than we are sending out. And then I'll send the next portion over to Melissa.
Okay. On page 12, you can see the levy information. So we're proposing a total school levy of $1,996,371. And that total is comprised of our Fund 10 general levy, our Fund 38 energy efficiency bond levy, and our referendum debt levy for the pool payments. Our mill rate did go down with this proposal, this budget, this levy. However, it does not necessarily mean a decrease in overall property tax bills because of the way our valuations are increasing in the area. So last year, our mill rate was $673 per thousand. This year, it's $577 per thousand. But overall, in the district, we had a 22.74% increase in our property valuation. So, an example I want to give is, if you take a mill rate of $673 and you times it by 100 on your $100,000 house last year, your tax bill for the school would have been $673. This year, if your property had increased 22%, you are now taking this lower mill rate of $577 and multiplying it by $122,000, because now your property is worth $22,000 more than it was last year. And when you take that 122 times the 577, you come up with $703.94. So just because the mill rate drops doesn't necessarily mean that the tax amount will drop, because it's all based on how many thousands of dollars worth of value your property has. The township that saw the largest increase in the dollar amount of the total levy this year is Bloom. I did call the Wisconsin Department of Revenue, and because I always thought this was based on your assessed values, and it's not. It is based on the sales that occur during the year, and that's how they figure the equalized valuation. So because certain townships are having big jumps, you can look at Bloom and say, well, they must have had some pretty big sales in that township, over the past year. So it makes their piece of the pie a little bigger. On the following page, you can see a history of our valuation, our levies, and our mill rates through the years. We've had 2 years now with a big bump in our property valuations. Last year was a little over 21%, this year's almost 23%. And that's something to take note of. One of the reasons we want to take note of that is, as I'll show you later, right now we're kind of funded 1/3 property taxes in the general fund and 2/3 in state general aid. But as our property values go up and we have declining enrollment, we are looking to have more value per member, which makes us look like a wealthy district, and then more of that burden falls on the taxpayers rather than the state to provide that revenue for us. On page 14, we have Fund 80. We added a little something to this year, just because we are utilizing Fund 80 a little more now with the pool being in service. I wanted to give it was actually Sandy's idea, and I thought it was a great one, to put beginning fund balance for the prior year and ending fund balance, show the revenues and expenditures that occurred throughout the prior year, what we're budgeting for this year, and where that leaves our anticipated Fund 80 fund balance at the end of the 23-24 fiscal year. And the reason I point that out is because as we can, depending on where our pool revenues come in and such, and what we continue to fund as expenditures through Fund 80, we may have to levy in Fund 80 in the future in order to sustain that. On page 15 is a breakdown of the Griffin funds, showing revenue and expenditures over the past several years. The top section is our regular Griffin quarterly payments that come in. The second section is the 2015 Griffin distribution, which is currently being used for tech school scholarships, the Griffin Technical Scholarship. And the total lines show the balances that are in there as of the end of the year. On page 16, yes, 16, put my glasses on. On page 16 is, this is the total pool project. This was a multi-year project. It spanned a few different fiscal years. but it is complete now. It was completed early in the 22-23 fiscal year. And so we have a showing of all the expenditures and what funds they came out of in order to complete that project. It came in at about 2.9% over budget, which really is not bad in the grand scheme of things. Following page 17 shows a graph of state aid versus tax levy and what portions are being funded by the taxpayers and which portions are being funded through the general aid as far as our Fund 10 revenues. And like I said before, currently roughly 1/3 on the taxpayers, 2/3 on the state, but as our property values go up, especially if we continue to decline enrollment, we're going to see those bars change. Following page 18, shows a history of the mill rates. And the page after that gives you some key historical data in regard to several different factors that play into funding a school district. Just something for you to peruse at your leisure. On page 20, we have a pie graph. And it shows our Fund 10 total revenue that we have budgeted for the 23-24 school year. The largest piece of that pie is our state aid. And that is our general aid and then some categorical aids, varsity, per pupil, high cost transportation, common school fund. Those all fall into that piece of the pie. And then we have the bright blue piece on the right side, that is our local piece. That's mainly property taxes, also interest on investments, and some income from school activities. Then we have the little blue piece, which is our federal revenues. These are our title funds, Title I, Title II, and so on. And also this year, it includes the last of our ESSER funding that we will be spending down during the 23-24 fiscal year. The red piece of pie is a very important piece. That's our open enrollment in revenue. As Kim pointed out earlier, we're about 2 to 1 on the positive, with about 2 students open enrolled in for every 1 that's out. So that comprises about 13% of our Fund 10 revenues. Then we have a couple small pieces, the miscellaneous, that's the insurance dividends that we get back from workman's comp, sales of old equipment such as buses, and then the intermediate, which is our Perkins grant. That's used in the CTE areas, the career technical education areas. Page 21. The 2 largest pieces of the pie kind of go together, the blue one and the red one. That is our salaries and fringe benefits in the Fund 10. Mainly, that is most of our teachers, most of our support staff, our bus drivers, our administrators, our custodians. Those all fall in there, and obviously because we're a service industry and our job is to educate and prepare people for the future, it takes a lot of people to do that. So it makes up a good part of our operating expenditures. The green piece of the pie is our purchase services. These are payments we make out to other people. So one of the really large ones is our open enrolled out payment. Another very large one is our voucher payments. And that one I wanted to just focus on for a moment so that everybody understands what the voucher, how that works. So we are aided on, we get general aid from the state. We didn't know until a week or 2 ago how much we were going to be paying out for voucher students. So what they do is they reduce the aid that they send us by the amount that they're giving to the voucher schools for students who are attending voucher schools who are our residents. We don't necessarily know who these kids are. We don't know if we've ever had them or not. We just know that they're residents in our district because we're responsible then for paying the voucher school. And they do that through a reduction in aid. Then what they do is they give us the authority to tax for that outside of our revenue limit in order to gain back that money, because we don't lessen our expense when we have 11, 12 students in voucher schools. We still have all our same expenses, but they're going to take roughly $114,000 of our revenue away, our general aid. So we had to recoup that. in order to keep our school functioning. So the changes you'll see in the budget later on when I get to it on the next page, those changes were mainly driven between the preliminary budget that was adopted by the board before. What we changed was we had to increase the tax, decrease the amount of state aid that we were anticipating to getting, and increase our expenditures for voucher schools. And the reason there was such a change is because I was basing the amount that we were going to tax for the voucher students on what we spent last year when we you got to kind of do the backwards math to figure out how many voucher students you have, because they just take and give you a lump sum of money, so you have to start doing the amount per student, try to figure out how many are in elementary, how many are in high school. Last year, it looked like we had 2 in elementary, 1 in high school. So I had about $32,000 in the revenue limit worksheet for that. When DPI finalized it, it came to $113,800. And therefore, we had to make some adjustments to the budget.
And DPI keeps changing the rules somewhat on that. They started with schools in Milwaukee, and the intent was to target some low achieving or impoverished students to give them the same opportunities as other students. What they're finding is that achievement has not grown for these students, but they continue to open the doors for more vouchers, opening it to a larger portion of the state. So I think that is a concern moving forward that we need to be aware of and to advocate for our small rural school, because that's going to be a huge hit on our area with declining enrollment and the inflationary impacts on our property or our valuations. So we do have a concern with the vouchers and the decisions that the state is making. There is a business, right? There are some individuals
Business
who
with a
are
super PAC, I believe.
are thinking it's unconstitutionalized, so they are bringing it hopefully to the Supreme Court. So there will be more dialogue around individuals trying to fight and saying that this is unconstitutional for our kids, because it is indeed what the intended goal was, to raise achievement and to help students, and they're not seeing the achievement in these voucher schools, and they're actually hurting all of the rest of our students. So hopefully we'll get some positive.
It's interesting, it would be nice if on our tax bills, because this whole increase in the levy almost entirely is to fund our vouchers. I mean, if I figured it right last year, we maybe had 3 students, it looked
Correct.
like, just by looking at your numbers.
Correct.
And sure, we can say for those 3, let's just eat it, we'll put it in our budget and we'll live. But now there's $100,000. We can't cut services to our students by $100,000, and the state says, oh, go ahead, you can tax. So we had a limit for you, but since we're going to take $100,000 of your aid, go ahead, you can have your taxpayers pay that instead. And it would be nice on my property tax bill if it said, here's your school taxes, for voucher, here's your voucher school tax. So that people would actually know what they're paying. We don't get that money. The state says we get it, but they take it before they give it to us. We don't even know, and I don't know if this is still true, but we had this conversation, you might remember this, Earl, a number of years ago, when they first started doing this. We don't know who they are, and I get, privacy and that sort of thing. But we don't know what schools they attend either. So I can't even get a hold of one of these schools and say, hey, I paid you property tax. What are you doing? Can you show me you're educating the kids?
And not only not knowing who they are, is being able to budget, because that's a huge hit to your budget when you're not anticipating that, to know if they're younger students, so that will continue.
Right.
Or if they're older and.
Right. So that would be good to know at least what grade levels they're
When I
at.
backed out the numbers, I had to work out the number based on the amount per voucher student at the K through 8 level and then the 9 through 12 level. And I believe, if I'm remembering right, I came up with 2 high schoolers and 9 elementary, or 9 K through 8.
Okay.
think that's where it ended up
But
falling.
we shouldn't have to be guessing and figuring that out, the state should be more.
Yeah.
And I know Scott's talked about, things, working with, legislators and trying to, and this would be the number one issue right now that's gonna affect us going forward.
It is really something that can impact our budget greatly.
It really, it did this year.
Right.
And if I figured it right on that number of, the amount of aid we need that's being taken for the voucher students, and then divided that by our total levy, it's over 5.5%. 5.5% of your tax bill is going to pay for voucher students.
Yep. If
To me, that's
Melissa's right.
taxation without representation. Nobody gave us any savings.
Yeah, there's certainly no transparency there. But if Melissa's right, 9 of those students are elementary.
Which means it's gonna keep on
It's
going
gonna-
for the next.
And there may be additional students. I mean, you can't, it's just gonna get worse.
Yeah.
Those families could have kids that haven't even entered the school
Yep.
Yep.
years yet. That would still be coming up through. And of course, if they're attending those schools now, I mean, the chances that they'll send their younger students that way too is pretty high.
And at one point, there was a limit to how many in the family, and they're opening that door as well to pay for everyone in the family, is the direction they were.
And we're probably not gonna be able to insert a little note in everybody's tax bill, but
No.
that would be something the board could communicate about.
Yeah, I
through-
do think we do need to find a way to
newspapers.
communicate that to people.
Yeah.
And the amount they get is, am I right? I thought I heard this at one of the WSB things. They get more per student than, they get like almost the full amount of aid or the full amount, more than an
So-
open enrolled out.
9 through
Costs.
12, I actually have them. It's $12,065 for 9 through 12. Oh, I'm sorry, no, $12,387. A K through 8 student, it's $9,893. And for a special needs student, voucher student, it's $15,065.
Except a
And-
lot of those schools won't deal with special ed students because they don't have to.
And my understanding is that they can take the students in, count them, and then decide that they can't provide services, and then send them back out, in which case we really take a hit.
That was
because
happening.
we-
I don't know if they
because we-
put it, if
Yeah, I
they've got
don't
that
know if
plugged
that
or
really
not.
happens,
Yeah.
it's out there in the realm of possibilities, things that could
What was
happen.
actually happening a couple years ago, that's why I'm thinking they may have done something.
Okay.
But is that higher than we pay out for an open enrolled out student?
Yes.
I think
so.
it is a little
I
bit.
don't
think that's
remember
11
open enrolled
something,
numbers.
isn't it?
Yeah, I was gonna say 10 something or 11. something.
Yeah, it kind of varies if they're special ed or.
I think it's like.
It's
Well, I agree, this is the top issue, is
very
that
frustrating.
Oh, for
newly
second, yes.
formulated committee policy and legislative affairs gets rolling, that's something they should, I think 13.2.
I do also want to mention real quick, as long as we're a little off the subject, our revenue limit did go up this year per student because that was part of the state's biennium budget. They made everybody's, the low revenue ceiling $11,000, and since we were at like $10,065, we got a $935 bump per student.
That's because we weren't at the minimum
Because they
level.
made the
Yeah.
minimum 11, yeah.
Right, and even at 11,000, we're still the lowest, on the lowest.
Yeah.
Yes, we're very low. Are you guys okay for me to proceed?
Yes.
Okay. Non-capital objects are our little green pie piece. That is mainly supplies for classroom custodial, maintenance, and transportation. Capital objects, typically that's just vehicles. Very few other things fall into that, but like, we've been trying to replace a bus per year to keep ahead of the rusting frames and things like that, that the winter punishes our buses, so. Try and keep those in good shape. Our operating transfers out, the light blue piece, that is our transfer to Fund 27. At the end of every fiscal year, if Fund 27 has a deficit, we have to transfer out of Fund 10 to cover that deficit, because that fund always has to be at zero at the end of the fiscal year. So we're budgeting $635,000 for that. And then just other objects, just little fees such as AP exams and permits for things like the pool and elevator. On the next page, 22, that's where the budget changes are. Just slight adjustments to the, we had a slight adjustment to the projected general aid between when the board approved the preliminary and then when the October 15th certification came out from DPI, from the state. So we had that slight adjustment, and then we had that large increase in the anticipated voucher cost also. So those were the things that impacted and caused these changes. You'll see the increase on the taxes, the decrease on the general aid, and then down in instructional service payments, you'll see the increased expense over what we had already had in the budget for vouchers. Just, I know you guys are all pretty familiar. Would anybody like me to go over the actual budget and what each of the funds does? I certainly can.
Melissa, I'd like to thank you for telling me what page you're on.
Well, I'm trying to keep up with pages. I may not
That
be
helps
doing it
a
all the
lot.
time. Page 23 through 26 is our budget. Fund 10 being our general fund, which we've talked extensively about already. On the next page, page 24, down towards the bottom, the first yellow box, special project funds. The only one we really use in there is our Fund 21, which is our student activity funds and scholarship donations, along with any other donations the school receives for specific purpose. Mental health, we get donations from Organic Valley, Macro, a variety of other entities and people who choose to make donations to the school. That's all in Fund 21. The special education fund, all the revenues that come in, all the expenditures are used to support our special needs students. And again, we do make a transfer at the end of the year to make sure that is zeroed out. On page 26, the debt service funds, that is our Fund 38 and Fund 39. Fund 38 would be our non-referendum debt, which is our energy efficiency bonds. And Fund 39 is our referendum debt, which is the pool note. Capital projects funds, the only one we use in here is Fund 46. And that is a place where if we have a little extra money at the end of the year, we can put it into Fund 46 to help pay for future capital improvement projects, such as sections of roof. The food service Fund 50, the revenues basically come from the feds, a little bit from the state, and then of course from student lunch account payments. And then the expenditures are our food service staff salaries and benefits, and the food product itself and the supplies necessary to serve breakfast and lunch to our students comprise most of those expenditures. Fund 80 we discussed earlier, and the bottom section, the package and cooperative program funds, we do not really use. So there's nothing budgeted in there. Then page 27 and 28 are our current debt schedules. The first one is our bonds, which are due to be paid off in 2029. Excuse me. And then the pool note is currently scheduled to be paid off in 2028. And that is all I have. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thanks, Melissa.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Information packed.
Is the CSUP 3 included in purchase services?
Yes, correct. I'm sorry, I didn't finish that one. That's also our shared costs, like our Spanish teacher that we share with Lafarge. It's their employee, we pay them. That would be included in purchase services, along with like maintenance for buildings, grounds, buses. So when the buses have to go across to be maintenance, that's all part of purchase services as well, and diesel fuel. Well, all the fuel.
Any other questions for Melissa on the budget? Then I think we'll move on to item 8. This year's set of resolutions, looks like we've got 6. And the way we'll proceed, I'll read the resolution and we'll take the motion and have some discussion. So the first resolution deals with the tax levy. Be it resolved that there shall be levied upon the taxable property of the Kickapoo Area School District the sum of $1,009,051 for the purpose of defraying the operation and maintenance of the public schools.
Scott, are you reading, I'm sorry, I need to interrupt though. I think you might be reading from last year's.
Oh,
That number seemed wrong, the very last
Page
page in the
thank
packet.
you.
They look exactly alike.
Yep. I flipped when I should have.
Not that I
Should have
think that was
flapped, so
different.
let me just pick up with the sum, thanks. $1,368,494 for the purpose of defraying the operation and maintenance of the public schools. $438,812 for non-referendum debt service. And $189,065 for referendum debt service for a total levy of $1,996,371 for the 23-24 school year. I will entertain a motion to approve the tax levy.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by John Mathis, second by Tom Stevenson.
Excuse me.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is approved. Second, school board member salaries. The present salary is $1,200 for each board member, $1,500 for the board president, and $1,300 for the board clerk, with mileage to be set according to the IRS primary rate, and $25 for all committee meetings and extra board meetings as posted. Resolution, be it resolved by the electors of the Kickapoo Area School District, Vernon, Richland, and Crawford counties of Wisconsin, that the following salary be set for the members of the Board of Education. And we didn't determine this yet, but I guess, does anybody have any thoughts with regards to the upcoming year's board member salaries?
I say leave it the same.
Yeah. So is that a motion?
I'll make that a motion, yeah.
I'll second.
So motion by Janet, second by Bo, to establish the amounts at $1,200 for each board member, $1,500 for the board president, and $13 for the board clerk, for all committee meetings and extra board meetings. All in favor, since we already had a motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Be it further resolved that the board members be paid their actual and necessary expenses when traveling or attending meetings outside the district in the performance of duties.
So moved.
Come on, Tom.
Second.
Motion by John, second by Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item C, temporary borrowing by the Board of Education. It is necessary to borrow funds to meet district expenses during the year because revenue, such as state aid and local taxes, are not received until later in the year or even the following year. Such loans for operating expenses are for a short-term basis and are repaid when the funds mentioned above are received. Resolution. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Kickapoo Area School District, Vernon, Richland, and Crawford counties of Wisconsin be authorized to secure a temporary loan in accordance with the provisions of Section 67.12 Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of meeting the immediate expenses of maintaining the schools of the district.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
So moved.
Motion by Earl, second by John,
Better yet.
to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is approved. Item D, hot lunch, breakfast, and milk programs. Resolution, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Kickapoo Area School District is hereby directed to furnish hot lunches, breakfast, and milk to any and all students in this district at such places and times and at such cost as shall be set by said board, and the school board is hereby authorized to pay any deficiency which may result from said lunch, breakfast, and milk program.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Motion by, was it Tom? Second by
Yes.
John. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passed. Item E, legal proceedings. Resolution, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Kickapoo Area School District is directed to provide for the prosecution or defense of any action or proceedings in which the district is interested.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Janet, second by Earl, to approve. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Last resolution, dealing with transportation. Be it resolved by the electors of the Kickapoo Area School District that the district shall transport all students in the district to school who are required to be transported by the district under the laws of the state of Wisconsin and in the same manner as required by said law. B, that in addition, the board of said school district is authorized to transport in its discretion any students living less than 2 miles from the school in said school. C, that said board is hereby authorized to maintain and operate present transportation vehicles owned by the district, and said board is hereby further authorized to purchase or lease any additional transportation vehicles that they deem necessary or advisable for the district to have and to place the same in operation. That this authority is a continuation of previous authority given by the board. D, that said board in its discretion, if further authorized, and if it finds it advisable or necessary to furnish transportation for some students by parent contracts, that said board is also authorized to provide any such transportation by contract with private individuals or companies. E, that said board is hereby authorized within reason to expend whatever sums it deems necessary and advisable for above purposes, and to pay for the same from the general fund, except expenditures for the purchase of vehicles may be furnished by the board at its discretion by borrowing or by financing contracts. F, that the above authority to operate included the authority to purchase liability insurance on any and all of said vehicles in such amounts and or such coverage as the board deems necessary.
I'll make that motion.
A second.
Motion by Earl, second by Peggy. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Then it looks like for this year's annual meeting, we have one last motion to entertain. Would anybody like to make that motion?
So moved that we
Adjourned.
adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion by John, second by Isaac to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.